what's going on? What's happening? Nowadays, if you want to live out the American dream, you would have to move out of America to live in it. The American dream is what I'm referring to. You know, the 2-car garage, picket fence house with the pool in the backyard. You know, the cat and the dog. 2 children. And you're able to afford all of this, bringing in one income or working at one job. See, nowadays, there's no way in the world you can get that. The American dream here in America. No way. And I know what people will tell you. You're not doing enough. You're not working hard enough. Then why don't you pick up a trade? If your job is not paying you enough. Become an electrician, a plumber. They make good money. But see, that's the thing what people don't understand is that at the end of the day, you have to have one time in order to just switch careers, money in order to pay for trading school, to go to trading school. Or they'll say, hey man, why don't you get into the free market? Invest in stocks, bonds, etc. And that always bugs me out when people talk about the free market. Because if the free market was truly a free market in which it would be open to everyone, then guess what? They would have taught in every public school, specifically in the black communities, financial literacy. So by the time we graduated high school, people that live in the inner cities would know just how to invest their money. They would know that money is nothing but a resource, a tool in order to make more. So miss me with that BS. Miss me with it. It's bad enough that the average American busts their ass every day at the job that they have. And that job can barely pay their bills. And you have the government, our peers, family and friends telling us that we're not doing enough. Like, at the end of the day, it used to be a time when we got our paycheck. After we paid our bills, we had a little bit of money left over in order to buy a new pair of sneakers. In the case of a woman or female, a new pair of shoes, high heels. Go out to eat or go to the movies. Nowadays, we can't even afford to do any of the extracurricular activities that we used to do. We can't spoil ourselves like we used to do. Nowadays, the average American looks at their paycheck and says to themselves, there's no way in the world I can be able to afford nice things. That I can't even take care of myself. That's real talk. I hear this all the time out in the streets. Well, you know it's going to get worse before it gets better. What? Haven't we as a people been through enough of the worst? And can you please tell me When is it going to get better? The exact date and time. So I'll know to look forward to that. That's real shit. You got expats right now. The retirees. And this is a shame. That are paying their bills based on their fixed income. They're getting an SSI check, a pension. And you know, of course, when inflation hits, their SSI check or pension is not regulated. It's not like they get more. No, they own a fixed income. If they're getting $600 a month, whether inflation inflates or deflates, they're going to be getting $600 a month. Nothing more, nothing less. So now these retirees are saying to themselves, man, it's no way I could be able to afford to live in America. I can't work. Even though you have the elderly working, 60 and 70 years old, you go to the grocery store, they bagging groceries, or they're at the cash register, or they getting carts, and that's a shame. To live in a country where the elders of our society are still working because they can't even keep up with the bills. They don't make enough. But they caught on to it. They said to themselves, hey, listen, I'm going to move to either Central America, South America, Portugal, Spain, Kenya, or any of those countries that exist within the continent called Africa. In order to get more bang for my buck. In order that I can actually live the American dream. But it has to be in another country. Which is a shame. It's real talk. Then you got the youngins, the millennials and the Gen Zs. They're saying to themselves, man, I'm not going to live like my mom and my pops. Working 30, 40 plus years. After they drain out all of the youth out of my parents. These companies and corporations, they leave them with nothing. Nah, man, I'm getting the hell out of here while I can. And it makes sense. Because nowadays, these Gen Zs and these millennials are not even able to afford to live on their own. One bedrooms nowadays in the hood is like $1,300, $1,400. Let alone in the decent area, you talking about anywhere between $1,800 to $2,000 a month. These youngins they don't have the opportunities like how I did when I was coming up in the 90s to fuck up. You know how many apartments I fucked up? You know how many chances I've gotten it throughout my life? But back then, you could fuck up. You know, later on I got it together, but these kids don't have that opportunity to do it. You fuck up one time, you're done. And that's real talk. You don't have the opportunity here to live out the American dream. Maybe in Costa Rica. Maybe in Belize. Maybe in Meridia. Maybe in Mexico City. Maybe somewhere in Brazil. But not here. And that's a shame. That's a shame, and people don't even realize it. We're just walking zombies, going from one job to the next, to the next, to the next. People got 4 or 5 jobs and still ain't enough to pay their bills. Everybody's faking. And nowadays, when you go into these stores, they finance everything. They got a thing called Afterpay. You know how many people I see in the grocery store financing the groceries that they buy? And it's a shame. Paying their bills with Afterpay. Well, you can't even straight up pay your bills, let alone pay for groceries straight out with cash. Now you gotta, in order to pay your bills and pay for food, they have to be monthly or weekly installments. As far as dealing with Afterpay. And we think this is cool. Rappers still rapping about the bullshit. Singers still singing about the bullshit. If you look at Good Morning America, whether it's the first one or the second one or third one, because I think they got 3 different shows of Good Morning America, if you listen to them, you would believe that everything is going okay in America. That everything is all good. And I suppose it is. When it comes to our government and the wealthy. But us common folks, us blue collar workers are catching hell. Hell. And that's real shit. I read in the comment section of a video that I did about 2 days back when I was talking about tariffs and Donald Trump and how he's putting tariffs on China, Mexico, and Canada. I read in the comment section of that video, this person wrote that they're putting tariffs on those countries. In actuality, we don't need their goods and services. That we can produce whatever Mexico, China, and Canada produces here in America. And I'm shaking my head because, see, sometimes, listen, man, I don't want to get I'm not deep into this shit, but sometimes I'm like, yo, man, I just need to do this podcast so these people could call in and I could bust that ass. I'm talking about mentally bust that ass while they're talking to me and I'm talking to them live. Because people seem to forget about this thing called North American Free Trade Agreement that happened in the early 90s. Where we lost over 600,000 jobs. Because that treaty really lessened the restrictions that we had on import and export dealing with countries. So there really were little to no barriers or government restrictions or laws. So these companies and corporations, they wind up leaving and moving out into Mexico and China. Places where there's little to no labor laws. Places where they had sweatshops and had little kids working there. Places where the minimum wage wasn't even half of what you would pay an American living in America. These companies, these same companies and corporations that left in the early 90s ain't coming back. For one, and for two, the last time I checked, the last time I looked on the back of my phone, my TV, just any electronics, laptop, tablet, Xbox, PS5, none of those things were made here in America. None of them. And none of those things will ever be made here. One thing is, these companies and corporations are not moving back here. They have no incentive to move back here. None whatsoever. And two, that goes along with what I just said. They're not going to pay the American people what they're worth. See, Americans got spoiled. There's certain things that Americans as a whole are not going to do. But over there in China, where they got sweatshops and shit like that, those people will do it. But here in America, if you ask an American to do the shit that they do across seas, that these companies, corporations are asking these people to do across seas, you're gonna have to pay them. The American people, that is. So mess me with that shit. Shit ain't gonna ever change. Ever change. When you look at the housing market, you know what I'm saying? People that are trying to buy homes for the first time can't buy them. You want to know why? Because you got people, corporate landlords nowadays. They had this dude on 60 Minutes that is the CEO of Tricon, if I'm not mistaken. He said the American dream is to be rented, not sold. So even if you want to live the American dream out here in America nowadays, and you can somewhat afford to live it, the American dream is no longer to be owned, it's to be rented. That's real shit. And you actually think that Donald Trump is going to change things? Don't you know that Donald Trump also sells products, goods? He sells sneakers, ties, shirts, etc. Ask him, where does he manufacture his goods? And I can tell you that shit ain't made. None of the stuff that he sells is made here in America. None of it. That's real shit. But you believe your politician. Politicians that all they do is play politics on the people. Every 4 years. Once they lie to you and you believe the lie and they get your vote, then guess what? They don't need you anymore until the next 4 years comes up. And see, I'm not with neither party. I'm not a Democrat and neither am I a Republican. And that's real talk. A lot of people have tried to get at me in the comment section of the videos that I do. When I talk about politics, they always say stupid shit like, man, all you do is complain about Donald Trump and you talk and mess about Donald Trump. But I don't ever hear you talk about Kamala and Joe Biden. And I know this to be a fact. I know you all are either A, lying, or B, you just don't look at my videos. Because I always talk about sleepy Joe Biden. And let's not forget about our drunk auntie called Kamala Harris. I'm not a fan of none of these people. But I am a fan of the American people. And I truly believe that the average American person deserves, if they get up every morning in an attempt of making America great, not again, because it never was great the first time, but I'm talking about making America great. They want to help build the infrastructure, making sure that America is going to stand tall for the next 200, 300, 400, 500 years. If they have that in mind, waking up in the wee early hours in the morning to go to work, working 40 plus hours a week, they deserve at the least the American dream. Straight up. But nowadays, can't get that. Real shit. And that's a shame that if you want the American dream, you have to live in a country that's foreign to you. You have to adjust to their ways and traditions and laws. You have to get used to, like, say, for example, if you moved out to any of the Caribbean countries, places, you have to get used to, you know, like, their infrastructure is not too great, you know, like, their lights just shut off for about 2 or 3 hours out of the day for, you know, really no reason, you know, with the exception of, you know, I guess to conserve power or something like that. Preserve power, I don't know. But this is what happens in these other countries. Your power goes out, your water goes out for 2, 3 hours out of the day. But I can tell you this. Excuse me. What's more important? What's more important? Your sanity, your peace of mind, or the stress that you have here when you busting your ass every fucking day, doing whatever you can do in order to pay the bills, but you're only making enough just to do that you're one paycheck away from being homeless. I'll tell you, me personally, I'll make some sacrifices. Hell, the lights go out in the Caribbeans or wherever I'm gonna go, I'll just burn a fucking candle. If my favorite restaurant, as an example now, is McDonald's and they ain't got it there, then I might have to motherfucking try find out some way how to make my own shit. Because this shit is ridiculous. And I can't understand, but then again, I can. I can understand how we took so long to figure this shit out. That, yeah, in order to live out the American dream, you're going to have to live outside of the Americas. America, the United States. But I know why it took us so long to figure it out, because America's always sold. America, that is. They always sold themselves as being the greatest country in the world. Well, if you are truly the greatest country in the world, why is it that the American people are suffering? And that nowadays, the house is divided. And I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about the United States. It's divided. And the division is, on one side is the have, and the other side is the have-nots. And guess what? There's only a certain amount of people that have. But here on the have-not side, there's a majority of people that's living like that. And that's real shit. It's time to get you a passport. Become a globetrotter. I think that's what it is. I'm not talking about the basketball team. I'm talking about a person that travels. A nomad, a nomad, a vagabond, whatever you want to call it. Start searching around. Find you a place that you could call home and live comfortably. That's real shit. Because this ain't it. This ain't it. And I would say, well, you know, go out somewhere out of the country and live until America gets its act together. But I don't think it ever is going to get its act together. I think that this is the new norm. And that things will only get worse for the have-nots. And that's real shit. That's real shit. You got to think about your family. You got to think about your friends. What's good for your inner circle? What's in the best interest for your loved ones? The ones that you love. The ones that you're willing to die for. And if it ain't popping over here, then you got to move. In my community, man, it's a shame, man. I see 4 or 5 cars in one driveway. And it's not because you have a person that lives there and they just like buying cars. No, everybody's living there. You know, even if you can't, let's just say you can't afford to move out of America. Well, get you a roommate. Some of you young people out there that's living out on your own and you struggling, and your pride has got the best of you. Oh man, I ain't going back home because I'm not going to be able to do the freaky nasty shit that you would do it when you have your own. Well, you better motherfucking take your ass back home. If your mother allow you to come back, or if your parents overall allow you to come back, save up some money and then go back out. But this ain't the time, especially nowadays. It's cold as fuck outside. And I really feel bad for the homeless. But this is exactly what America's about. A cold-blooded country that don't give a fuck about you unless you got money. That plain and simple. So, I hope this helped you all. Other than that, I'm out.